Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's wonderful to start our practice with just sitting and letting ourselves encounter whatever needs to come up. And I mentioned that in yesterday's gathering because I think we really can't separate the gestures practice from also having just a silent, formless sitting practice. Like they have to be together because the gestures, however, can come into the silent sitting practice when you're sitting there doing nothing. You can and just letting things come up and being aware and learning. You can find when you're really drifting a lot and kind of go, wow, I'm really distracted this morning. And then maybe doing a gesture like, what are you feeling, sweetie? What's going on in you? Or, any number of gestures. Maybe I need to let go of some kind of thing. Oh, I keep just being distracted about this thing that I'm going to do or buy or this thing I have to relate to, right? And so it keeps coming up. I can relate to that after the session, but why do I keep going to it? Well, because there's some attachment. It's giving me some tether or ground, and it's often actually something that's preventing us. Our body knows, oh, and parts of us know, oh, you're going to get deep. You're going to go into the deep end. I don't know if I want to do that this morning. So sometimes it might be like, what part of me is resisting being here? Or let me let go of my resistance. Can we do that? And it's sometimes that part of us that was holding goes, oh, thank God we're letting go, because I didn't actually want to clutch for life and focus on distracted, right? So anyway, I'm just pointing out, or maybe it's like, wow, I need to look at something I did. I'm upset with myself. Oh, let me be compassionate about the mistake I made. I keep perseverating or fixating. So this is the funny thing, right? When life comes to us and these thoughts, discursive thoughts, there's a danger of regarding them all as just chatter, when in fact there's often something to learn from what's happening. However, this is important. If we're only doing processing or therapeutic method, we never actually leave enough space to allow ourselves to connect with our ultimate nature. And then we start preferring the relative psychological work. And the problem with that is it actually becomes a very sneaky way of avoiding opening to our true nature. So it goes both ways, right? And so that's why the Lojong slogans are a circle that contradicts, because it's always trying to keep us from holding on to any conceptual viewpoint. All of them are useful, like facets on a jewel. But if we get kind of habitual, they cause us trouble. Yeah.
Is that sort of like if we stay in the conceptual type of thinking, that this solidifies us in some way? There is some sort of like ground or security, false security or ground.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. And especially what's sneaky about it is if we think we're being therapeutic or attentive to our parts or all these things, it's almost the same as someone having a Buddhist ego saying, oh, and being bypassing, say everything's empty, you don't need to worry about your parts, they're not real anyway. So it's the same thing, but it's done in a relative way. That's preferring the ultimate, and this one's preferring the relative. It's bypassing spirituality as opposed to spiritual bypassing, right? So you're bypassing the profundity of your nature by going, but this is really important to focus on these stories and these things, which again, at a certain time is valuable. But how do we find the middle way, Uma, or the middle central channel, or the Madhyamaka, the way that's not in extremes? And that's the only way to do that is by feeling, paying attention. But if we identify, right, if we become identified with a certain kind of I'm doing this important thing, or I'm doing this important thing, often that blind spots us to the fact that we're actually still trying to get ground using the important thing that's therapeutic or spiritual, right? So that's the psychological ego or the Buddhist ego, whatever, the therapy ego or the Buddhist ego. They both have this kind of sneaky way of saying, oh, you're really into processing your own inner parts. Okay, cool. I'll take that on as my new identity and we'll get ground through that. Or, oh, you're really into being groundless. Okay, cool. I can do that. We'll just really I'll get into that and I'll identify with being the one who does that. So it's tricky. It's sneaky in a way. And that's, I just bring it up because that's why we need to combine formless sitting with the gestures. And sometimes during formless sitting, I was saying you can bring in a gesture, right? You can bring one in. You don't even have to move. You could just do it mentally or with the subtle body. And I found when I do that, if I need to do that, it can correct course, right? You could be going this way and kind of just sort of not really connecting with yourself and wait. It's almost like you're like looking at the clock, like, wow, I haven't really gotten anywhere. You know, it's almost another 10 minutes. It's like the dong 10 minutes left bell inside your mind, right? Like, oh shit. So if you're feeling that way, it's always like, okay, so what is it? And often an insight will come at that time if you relax and just go, what am I resisting? Oh, okay, I'm tightening up. And that's the thing about Dharma practice is like, oh, the tightening, it's not the story, right? It's the tightening. And then you untighten and then suddenly you feel the difference and go, oh, well, the story was important, but that was not actually the issue. The issue was the tightening before the story. Why was I tightening? Why was there a story? Why am I tightening? Why am I focused on the story? I'm tightening because I'm evading being naked, dropping into the heart and going, oh shit, I'm just here. Now, the cool thing about this, once you're just here, whatever psychological things are coming up, you're available to them. And then suddenly you can bring them into the ultimate space and you can join heaven and earth, right? And you can be like, oh, okay, right. And there's no need to prefer one style over the other. Right. But so that's why we have to have formless practice. And also the way you two have been doing the gestures, I'm just so proud of you. It's like that regular practice of just sitting and then doing the gestures, and whoever's watching the recordings and however you're practicing in your own practice, that's so awesome when we mix those two things. So I said that yesterday, but then I thought, no, I really need to emphasize that because we don't talk about it that much. I always talk about the gestures and, but it's like, okay, but remember, the gestures only exist in the context of mixing with total formless being and allowing things to come up. And then we do the gestures. Now.
Which is what happens in social meditation.
That's right. That's right.
And that's where the gestures grew out of, really.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. It's such a good point. If you're ever wondering how this happens or how this works, you just go back to the root, the source, which is social meditation practice. That's really how all of this, that's our whole style of learning, of processing, of mixing ultimate and relative, joining.
We practice that on Wednesday nights at 7:30, by the way.
So now what I wanted to talk about for this morning, that was just sort of a general thing, but what I want to practice together is this. What we've been doing lately, we've been working on flow. And then in the mornings, you've been doing freestyle, which is actually sort of further along. Flow is good to learn how to see hesitation. It's kind of a mirror. It's very powerful. It's its own application. When might you do that? You might do that when you're feeling kind of stuck in your mind body. You're a little tight. You're not fully present. Aha. Let me bring out the Roto-Rooter, sewer cleaning. It's like, oh shit, there's no place to hide. And then
not the tree root.
Yeah. So that's important to do, and you see yourself resisting any movement or hesitation. You go, oh, I'm trying to gain control conceptually. We're not thinking when we're doing this, we're feeling. And it's such a mirror, isn't it? Because it's like, well, am I going too fast? Not in flow practice. Flow practice has no speed. It's continuous. So you're not thinking in terms of speed. If you're thinking in terms of speed, you're still thinking of controlling. But if you just kind of go, now, of course, if you're feeling the speed you need, that's okay. But if you're thinking, is this fast or slow? Just keep moving. And that, see, that's the idea, is we're not using the head to guide the practice. We're using the body. But that's just for flow practice, just during flow practice. Does that make sense? Is that? Yeah. So that's the application. Another application is the dance form. And I thought, why can't we do a little dance in the morning?
Is that allowed?
It is. Damn it. We're changing the rules. So
Grant's fucking with the algorithm again.
absolutely. So dance. Now, why would we do the dance practice? Well, number one, it's a further kind of flow practice. So, but it's whole bodied. So that's very powerful. But more than that, and though it is a flow, like we're just keep moving forward. You don't, there's no reverse, just like chanting, right? You don't go, grant your, you go, grant your blessings. And you might think, what blessings? You keep going, right? And so these kinds of practices are important. They're discipline to show us our resistance, our hesitation, not the only way to practice. So we don't have to worry, but we know that's important. So in flow practice, like dance, now dance, it's the whole body. So there's an even stronger mirror than just doing it like this, because literally if you're hesitating, you might stumble. But more importantly, why would you do dance beyond just flow practice? Because we already have a flow practice, right? I think the real reason is having the attitude of bringing down blessings to your locale. Actually calling the dralas, calling the lineage to bless your home and the place where you're dancing. Do you see how that changes? It's suddenly like you're inviting the larger world into your practice in a very real way. The other reason you might do it is that could be a way of blessing a home, blessing an area. Another reason you might do it is also as a celebration of life, of your nature, of your devotion, your confidence. So it's a proclamation and a celebration. We talk about that, right? But we don't know, where does that fit in our practice? Well, here's where you would practice that. Practicing celebratory proclamation. I think that would be great to do just even when you're sitting, but sometimes we're just sitting and we're kind of like, well, we might not have that much life force flowing through our practice to feel like it's a proclamation. Some days we might be like, I feel so, alive and present, and it's happening that way. But other days we're working with a lot of emotion, or we're just distracted, or whatever, fine. But when you get up and move and dance, you're bringing in a whole nother layer, right? A whole nother gear. And it's not better, it's not more, it's just different. But it is special, right? Because of the nature of your whole body becomes a mudra, and you're calling the blessings of the lineage, of our lineage, and these practices. Also, because it's a flow practice, your sense of wonder and proclamation of confidence is actually, you're getting to see whenever your mind is like, I'm not feeling the flow, I'm not feeling the devotion right now, or I'm not feeling the wonder. And then you're like, okay, how do I do that? Oh, right, I open my mouth. It's actual, right? So it's really good when you have a practice that's not just formless, because the problem with formless practice alone is you can kind of drift, and you can kind of space out, and you can kind of just be there, but not really it can be a stagnancy sometimes. That's why we have the inner yoga practices that move the energy and get up and do things. And then you go back and sit. And now your sitting's reanimated, the channels are opened up and things are flowing. So they work together like very well. Just to review, we'll do it now, but it's a calling down of blessings. And I really want you to like feel that when you begin, like I'm calling the blessings now. I'm calling down blessings on my home and on my area. It's a proclamation of my devotion and confidence. Do you see how that's a slightly different thing than just doing the gestures when we're seated? Like because of the other mudras, the wonder devotional mudra, and then the confidence soaring mudra are full body, and we keep doing them over and over. So that's why the dance practice has a slightly different emphasis. It's the same gestures in between, it's still a flow practice, but we're really bringing ourselves to those energies again and again. And it's cleansing, there's a blessing, it's a celebration or proclamation. Okay. All right, let's do some. All right. All right. So what we'll start with is just a little stretching. Like Stephen, you're doing great. Just a little Lujang, however you want. Let's do that for a minute or two. Twisting, like you're doing, Janice. Great. Ha. Ha. He. Ha. He. Ha. Ha. All right. So we'll begin, and we won't try to get through all the gestures, and we won't try to go, there's no quickly or slowly. It's more about how you feel. I'll just do it the speed that I'm feeling this morning. So remember, it's not, you can do it slowly or quickly. It's more about tuning into like, how does it feel as you do it? And you can even change the speed as you do it, just to feel, what am I synchronized with what is going on in me and around me. It's very personal, but the only thing I'll say is it's a flow. We just keep going, right? It's dance. We don't stop dancing. So unless you need to like get something or you're, whatever, but. Okay. So we'll start with the first gesture. Hmm. So as we're doing these, whichever gesture we're doing, we're really connecting with the gesture and just getting a flash, a feeling of what it means to us so far. And once we have a feeling of it, then we move to feeling this wonder about it. Thank you for this teaching. Oh, I love this feeling of this gesture. And then we literally move to, now I want to soar inside of the sky of this experience of the gesture. So it's like, what does that feel like? And you're using your imagination, but you can also really kind of feel it, right? I want to bring up this notion of what Janet spoke about, is that sometimes you would do the gesture and then walk into it, right? As a spell you'd cast and then move into that realm, like you're now in the realm. So you can really have that same feeling with the soaring, with these, like, okay, oh, I love the blessings. How marvelous that we have these practices. And now let me soar inside of the rain of blessings and that feeling. So you're inside of it physically, right? Mm. Mhm. And it's sort of like with the self as deity, you're literally like, I am this beautiful light wisdom. Just when you're soaring, you really feel like, rah. When do we let ourselves feel that? We often think, oh, if I get confident, I could be bloating myself. It's out of insecurity. This is not that. This is, how can I soar and like, I am this beautiful rainbow deity. I feel it. I believe, I feel it. I believe it. I know it. That's not arrogance. That's called pride of the deity, or confidence. It's or knowing, believing in our Buddha nature, like really letting it be real for us. It's a very different feeling than bloatedness. And it's not ego. It's this incredible proclamation of celebrating how wonderful it is to be a human. And it's how we build a sense of worthiness. And I think, the cosmic low self-esteem in modern culture is that people never get to touch genuine confidence in their body mind. They don't think it exists, or they think it's arrogance, or they bloat themselves and fake it all the time. And either way, you're never getting what you need. It's like a plant not getting sun, right? So this is so crucial.
I feel like there's an invitation there to kind of, like, I experience that as a settling into or dropping into my nature, to what's already true,
Yeah.
primordially. and and then celebrating that on a relative level. And so there's like a joining
Mhm.
of the two in that moment.
It's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Stephen, how do you experience this today? Like, how do you notice the two stages? How do they feel to you?
It's kind of a new dawn, I would say, like a new opening for me, especially, practicing it with you too right now.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah, it feels like a new level of practice, more full.
I love you, Stephen. I wish I was there or you were here. I could give you a big hug. I'm so proud of you.
Group hug. Come on, get in here, Stephen. Group hug. There we go.
You know what? I feel like for me, being able to bring this kind of celebratory practice in, it's like, oh, this is a part of my practice and a part of me that until we were doing this, it wasn't particularly invited into our space together. And it wasn't like it was uninvited, right? It just didn't have a seat. And I think that's what we're learning, is to give a space for this kind of celebration and confidence, which is a unique thing. It's not just sitting there. It's not just doing a practice. It's really saying, I am going to proclaim confidence and devotion physically with my whole being. And it actually opens up this, you can feel it in your body, right? And in your perception. You feel the shift. You're like, wow, I'm in it. That's so beautiful.
This came up for me when you were kind of laying the ground, giving the view before we started this practice, that it's like we're in that, when we come into this part of the practice with all of what you described as our intention to call down the blessings, to celebrate, it's like we're inviting the Dralas and giving them a place to land.
A great, yeah, so that's why we have, it's funny when you look at the word ceremony, it goes back to ritual. When you look at ritual and rites is the root of ritual. They all just kind of mean honoring the sacred or giving a space for the sacred, doing something. But you're right, there's a particular point of a conduit for the sacred, or a seat for the blessings, for something for the blessings to land. And it's, in this case, it's your body. Yeah. So it's a pretty cool. I'm so glad we can do this. And it's we're at the end of time, but I just think that as we mix these different layers, I have a feeling they will all start informing each other, right? Now that we have this practice and we can bring it back to the seated gestures, right? They start to inform each other in a cool way. Because again, we couldn't do this practice unless we'd already learned all this, right? And really felt it. Now we can add in a thing and do this, and it's like, oh, this is very natural. Everyone's doing fine with it right away. So I'm really happy about that. All right, let's dedicate the merit. All you sentient beings, I have a good or bad connection with. As soon as you have left this confused dimension, may you be born in the Western Sukhavati. And once you're born there, complete the boomies and the past. You guys.
Love you, Stephen.
Love you, Stephen.
Yeah.
Bye.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.